I don't know about you, but I've had about enough of Tucker Carlson that I can take. He has been saying some really horrible things lately. I'm not even going to get into today a lot of the anti-Semitism that he's been doing, or the warning that he gave Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin this last couple of days, and about stop complaining about Israel and these things, or else, which was really not even a veiled threat at this point. I'm not going to get into that. Today, I just want to talk about something else that has nothing to do with anti-Semitism or Judaism. This has to do with, I've had enough with Tucker. And I feel that I want to say, how dare you, Tucker? It's enough. I had enough, and you should too. Tucker Carlson is trying to diminish what America fought for in World War II, trying to say it was wrong. He is trying to rewrite history. He is trying to tell us what we fought for was misguided. How dare he besmirch our history, our morality, our brave young men who fought valiantly, with many giving up their lives for what we knew at the time, and still to this day, that fighting in World War II, rescuing Britain and the rest of Europe from the yoke of Nazism, was absolutely correct and moral. It was a clear fight of good versus evil, very much in a biblical sense. It was a moral war to fight. Now this blowhard is trying to rewrite our understanding of what went on 80 plus years ago in World War II. He's now trying to make us believe we should feel ashamed of our role. When Tucker does this, he diminishes the bravery of our men in uniform, of American morality. How dare he? He has brought more than one history revisionist on his show. One who actually had the gall to say that Hitler wasn't the most evil man in the war. That title belonged to Churchill. I have to say here, what the fuck? Churchill was the sole man who kept the United Kingdom together and running and fighting alone for 2 years after Poland was invaded, before help came. And that was Churchill's goal, was to keep going until the US would finally enter the war. In discussions Tucker had with Daryl Cooper, not once in over a 20-minute segment were the Nazis brought up. Cooper never even mentions that Churchill had a visceral hate for Nazism, never mentioned it. He saw it for the evil it was. That is why Churchill wanted the US to enter, not just to save them, to help stamp out the Nazis. Instead, he tells Tucker how awful the carpet bombing was, and the other awful things that Churchill did before the US joined the war. Hitler had already taken over the continent and basically won. This point is true before the US entered. According to Cooper, Britain should not have fought, and the US would not have come in. This is insane. Never to discuss Nazism here. It is dishonest, and Tucker did not once raise any of these objections or facts at this point. They didn't talk about it at all. If you had a relative that fought in World War II against the Nazis, that conversation should anger you and offend you. All Americans who lost their lives to the Nazis. As if this nonsense wasn't enough coming from Tucker, we were treated yet to another batshit crazy idea about the war. He had another bomb to drop that was absolutely puts logic on its head. This time, however, it was supposedly driven by his very warped take on Christian morality about what a very settled idea that came out of the war. As we know, there were several well-known attempts on Hitler's life, with one sticking out the most was the attempt made by Lutheran German pastor, theologian, ecumenist, and peace activist by the name of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He hated the Nazis. He lost his brother in World War I, and it really changed his views on the war, leading him to become a pastor and always worked for peace. As Bonhoeffer, a German who was in the German military because he had no choice, was well known to the Nazis and the Nazis kept watch on him. He was arrested on April 5th, 1943, for helping Jews escape and misusing his position as a military intelligence officer. He was part of a failed plot on July 20th, 1944, to assassinate Hitler. He was arrested and moved around from one concentration camp to another, finally being executed just weeks before the end of the war on April 9th, 1945. Many books and a great movie from a year or so ago tells us about the life of this great hero of this war. Tucker is saying, he just said it this past week, that this very Christian moral man lost his Christianity. That it was not moral to try to assassinate Hitler, to try to kill anybody, and to try and save however many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of lives of people that had not yet been killed when it was attempted. He lost his Christianity? No, Tucker. He was a Christian trying to stop a vile murderer. Had he succeeded, how many lives might he have saved? This was not a cold-blooded murder attempt, but an attempt to save more lives. It is you, Tucker, who has lost your understanding of Christianity when you put forth ideas like this, and so many others of late. This exact discussion is well settled, and even in Christian circles. Tucker has mentioned, but I have not seen the idea spelled out in detail, that maybe the U.S. should not have entered the war. Trying to gaslight us about if we should have fought in the war. I can't tell you how sickened I feel when he starts to gaslight us with his warped views, his ideas of right and wrong, his flavor of Christianity. It is not the norm, nor is it very Christian. Like many, he is only Christ-like when it suits his goals. It's very different to sit in his home 86 years after the start of World War II and pontificate about his interpretation of what was happening. For those living it, not knowing what tomorrow will bring, they were very clear why they were fighting and supporting the war. They did not have the benefit of our understanding of the results. Let me tell you, I, for one, will not stand for this jerk trying to take away anything from our heroes. Many men lost their lives knowing what they were fighting for, and it was a principle worth dying for. I just want to add that I am named after my own great uncle who died in the war in Speyer, Germany, just a month or so before the war ended by a sniper. And I'm glad to have his name, and I'm proud that he fought, and I'm proud of his service. And anybody else who lost their relatives should also feel that way. And I find this just absolutely reprehensible. Thank you very much.